when I translate the particular sentence here, is I salute the lineage of teachers, beginning with Shiva as the Lord, here we're going to get Sri Krishna as the Lord, linked by Shankaracharya in the middle, extending down to my present day teacher. And our teacher today is going to be Jagat Guru Sri Krishna, Narayana himself. And what is a guru when we talk about? Gukaras andhakarascha rukaras tan nivartakaha. Gukaras andhakarascha rukaras tvan nivartikaha. That means gu means darkness or ignorance, and ru means one who removes it. One nivartakaha. So guru is the one who gets rid of the ignorance, basically takes the bandage off from your eyes. And you are the one who is going to see as a disciple. We're going to start with Geetayanam one by one. And I'm going to, that's the reason I did not sing the entire Geetayanam at the beginning. So I'm going to sing one verse at a time and take one verse at a time for this for us. So follow me. Parthaya pratibodhitam bhagavata
Parthaya pratibodhitam bhagavata
Narayana swayam Vyasena gratitam purana muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamunusandadhami Bhagavat Gite Bhavatveshinim Bhagavad Gita Tvam Anusandhami. Mother Bhagavad Gita, I invoke you. Parthaya Pradipoditam, taught by the son. But who is being taught it? Narayana Swayam. Swayam Narayana Pradipoditam. Vyasena Gratitam. Vyaas kon? Purana Muni Vyasa. Ashtadashadhyayinim, placed in Madhye Mahabharata. And how is the Gita? Advaita, Amrita, Varshini, and Bhavat Dveshini. It starts with Om, because first name you take is God. Gita is invoked here as Mother. And anytime you get hurt, the first word that comes out of your mind is Mother's name. There is a 9-month connection with the umbilical cord. Mother is the name, that word that comes to your mouth first. Mother represents unconditional love, unique affection, and spontaneous care that's given. Regardless what we do, that person is concerned about our welfare. We may not necessarily agree with what she is doing, but the love and affection and concern in her mind is genuine. And most importantly, Mother never lets you down when you are in trouble. And from personal experience, Gita has never let us down. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Partha, Parthaya Pratibodhi. Partha means son of Prutha. That's the name of Kunti. But the way I like to translate it is Prutha means Prithvi. To me is earthlings, and that's the way I like to translate it. This is for all the beings on the earth. So this is basically for all of us. Narayanena Swayam. Himself told by Narayana. What do you mean by Narayana? Nariyate iti nara. One who is never destroyed is Naraha, and one who knows it, Eti, is Narayana. That is omniscient God or Paramatma is Narayana. Vyaas here is mentioned as Vyasena Grathita. He is the reporter. He reports accurately, includes intricate details, and explains clearly with cogent arguments. Because unless the reporter has a good grasp of the subject matter, he is not able to put in a beautiful fashion, in a contextual fashion. You can see the news reporters in the evening, those who are well informed, well prepared, they can make sense out of a story much more effectively. And that's, Vyaas has a special distinction. And he had to make sure whatever the brilliant ideas came to his mind with clear thinking, he wanted somebody to jot it down very quickly, and so he had to get Lord Ganesha to get it. And he is called Purana Muni. That means an ancient sage, Purana Muni. Purana is old, ancient. And what's brilliant about it is that he gives a context of all the various Puranas very effectively. Madhye Mahabharata is placed in the middle of Mahabharata, in the Bhishma Parva, between 25th and 42nd chapters. What is the subject matter? Amruta Varshini. It is a shower of nectar. It is not a simple drop of nectar, but literally a shower of nectar. That's the beauty of it. And what is the subject matter? Its subject matter is non-duality, Advaita. Because when we have the nectar from the fruits of the flowers, it gives us a finite happiness. But when you get an unending happiness, that is the Gita Amrita. And that's a teaching of non-duality. There is no other thing, there is no second thing. Only God, Brahman, exists. And that is no different than any one of us in this room. Here the Advaita, Amrita, coming in the form of a shower through the Gita, has to be realized, has to be understood. And Bhagavad Gita he is calling it. Bhagavati means, remember, as we always discuss with the people coming to our temple, the Shakti for Bhagavan is always feminine. So, vision of God, Shakti of God is Bhagavati. She is related to God, wife of God, but you know who does all the work? Bhagavati. And she is Ashtadasha Dhyayini. Adhyaya, Ashtadasha Adhyaya. So 18 chapters. Bhavat Dveshini, destroyer of the sorrow. Bhava Dveshini. Destroys Bhava, is called samsara, destroys the painful life, pain in the life. Because most of the problems, as we alluded to last time, is because our inability or lack of personal acceptance of ours. We don't want to accept ourselves as we are. We want to become something different than what we are. We want to be richer, we want to be getting more degrees behind it, you want to look fairer, you get the plastic surgery done, whatever it is. You want to be something different than what you actually are. And that's exactly the reason why we have the grief, bondage, and the problems that we have in our life. And I may have mentioned it before in any of the discussions. Anytime the teachers are teaching, they always have the hand like this. And that is called Jnana Mudra. And Jnana Mudra is basically the explanation of the entire Vedanta, Advaita. Okay. This is Brahman. Because if we are born without a thumb, we do the surgery to make one of the fingers as the thumb. Because without the thumb, hand becomes dysfunctional. Doesn't function at all. Index represent Atman. They are together, they are non-different, connected. And mind, body, and senses, all those sense organs, these are three fingers are separate. So when you understand that these are transient, most important are these two, Atman and Paramatma, and they are together. So anytime if you see a teacher discussing, automatically the hand goes this way. Knowingly or unknowingly, all of us do it. But that's called classic Jnana Mudra, or Vedanta. That knowledge that we're going to get is not going to come about without one thing which I'm going to mention in a moment. Anything that we achieve or succeed is called PRAYATNA, KAALA. That means you need efforts, hard work, concentration. KAALA, that means you need time, that means patience, perseverance, persistence. But the most important factor is called DAIVA. That's called grace. That's the unknown factor we're talking about. Grace has to be earned. Grace has to be harnessed by individuals. Grace is present all the time. We have to harness it. When we focus the light with a convex lens on a piece of paper, it starts burning. and the solar energy is concentrated through the convex lens. When we do the Kumbhabhishekas upstairs, we sanctify the water by constant chanting of mantras, and that sanctified water is then sprinkled on the shrines of worship and devotees. So also, the grace has to be achieved through the process of praise, because God's love is always present. God's concern for us is always present. He and she want to help us, make see the truth. But only way we can do that is through the process of the prayer. Somebody or other comes in everybody's life who directs you to that direction. Now, how many people know Kalidasa, the most famous of the poet, Sanskrit poet, was born mute. But he did brilliant Sanskrit poetry. Valmiki, who wrote a magnificent epic Ramayana, was a highway robber. But once Narada came in his life, whom he was about to kill for a few paltry dollars, he was carrying dollars at that time, but once he recognized, he asked him to get answers from his wife, and once he realized what Narada was telling was the truth, he changed his direction completely. But again, it comes through the process of praise and the powerful divine force that covers us all, and we don't recognize it because we are moving at a speed of 186,000 miles a second at the present time in this galaxy, but we don't feel it because all of us are going at the same time. So divine force is around us all the time, but we don't notice it till the time we open our eyes. And only when we harness that strength, what we will get is adrushta phala, and that's what we call grace. At the very initial comment I made, the three factors which are very difficult to obtain, and is a third verse in the Viveka Chudamani, which says, Durlabham Trame Vaitat Devanugraha Hetukam Manushyatvam Mumukshutvam Mahapurusha Saushraya. Only through God's grace may we obtain those advantages. And that is human birth. Mumukshatvam is longing for liberation. And a company of good people. Mahapurusha Samshraya. And all these three things, every one of them is caused by God's grace. At the same time, since that mother's love is always there, God's grace is always there, it is our responsibility, mission impossible, should we decide to accept it, is to make sure that we harness the divine grace which is surrounding us all the time, always. So that grace which is always available, we can invoke that grace through personal efforts, lots of prayers, and good actions. We have to earn it. Maybe one lifetime or many, many, many lifetimes. Or Smriti says, Jantunam Nara Janma durlabham. That means to be born as a human being, durlabham is very difficult. So having gone through so many life cycles, we have been bestowed a human life through God's grace, where we have free will, capacity to think and make choices. Only through God's grace, our Jivatma is born. And again, to be born healthy is not easy. Having worked with children all my life, it's not easy to be born as healthy. And having survived all through these years, that also is God's grace. What do you mean survived all these years? But because the three things what we need, just not enough to be born as human being, you have to survive long enough till the time one develops mumukshutvam. That means one has to have a desire to learn. Now, what is mumuksha? Moksham ichchati iti mumuksha. That is, moktum ichcha is mumuksha. That means desire for freedom is mumuksha. But then the word mumukshatva, that means that person is not interested out of curiosity alone, but that becomes a predominant goal of that individual at that particular time. Because having gone through the other purusharthas, artha, kama, done by the righteous way, by dharma, one has to have the intense desire to pursue the ultimate purushartha, moksha. That one desire is there. Gotta have it. That is mumukshutva. So that also is God's grace. So many times, unless you have gone through the pleasures of life, riches of life, and again that is relative, and you realize that that does not give you a long-lasting excitement or happiness, like chocolates. But after the chocolate is over, you want some more chocolate because you are not completely satisfied. So then you want something more that will give you a long-lasting satisfaction. And once you are driven by that desire, intense longing, that becomes mumukshutva. Intense desire to know, that becomes moksha, becomes the jidnyasa. We talk about desire for freedom. Some people find that they do have a desire for freedom without really recognizing what it really is. Many times people want to pursue the spiritual aspect because they want to get rid of their problems in the day-to-day life. People might do other exotic things like rituals, yoga, meditation. But the freedom that I'm talking about is not like seeking money or security, but something much more intense than that. Our purpose of studying Gita is to identify and understand and realize exactly what our problem is, quotation mark. And once we understand that, that itself would be grace for each and every one of us. Because in medicine again, once we know the reason behind any particular disease process, then finding the cure is a lot more easy. But if you don't know what the reason a particular disease is caused, then it becomes a shot in the dark. So our mission, should you decide to accept it, is to find out what our problem is, and once the problem is found, the answer is right there and there. Because as we discussed it briefly last time, our major problem is sense of bondage and sense of limitation. These are two basic descriptions. You can give two sides of the coin. And once we recognize that we are Sat Chit Anandas, we are no longer limited or no longer bound, the grace is already on us. The third part is Mahapurusha Samshraya, and we will take the help, refuge, guidance and protection from Jagadguru Sri Krishna through his words from Mata Bhagavad Gita, as we talked about. And Vedanta will use it as a means of knowledge called Praman. And why Gita Shastra? Why is I consider him the greatest of the teacher? Because he literally has brought the Brahma Vidya, which is described in several places in Vedanta, and Yoga Shastra together. And because Brahma Vidya plus Yoga Shastra, Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastra Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, so basically that becomes a complete distilled medication that each and every one of us can take 3 times a day and call me in the morning. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And what we will do is periodically bring in a few scholars who have helped Kumud and me a great deal over the years to make sure that we are maintaining the right path. And one of the teachers that we respect greatly is a teacher who has established a Rishiku in United States, Arshividya Gurukulam in Sellersburg, Pennsylvania, and that is Swami Dayananda. And he will certainly come and visit with us on August 8th, 9th weekend. And we have not finalized the exact subject matter, but I think he will be there. And he was literally the heart and soul of Chinmayananda's teaching schools. And the Sandipani school that was started in Bombay was started by him. And he established one center on the west coast at Sandipani school there. And now this one in Arsha Vidya in Sellersburg. But we will be using him, and certainly I got a book for you, Bala, from Swami Chinmayananda, and they work very closely with each other. Another person who will be hopefully visiting us will be Swami Viditatmanandaji, one of Dayananda's teachers. I'm going to stop at this particular time and open up for question and answer, unless, no, I think I mentioned to you, no, I got to finish one more thing before I start. Because I have given you the text that we're going to finish today. Now, the first chapter we'll start with the Arjuna Vishada Yoga. And the chariot was placed at a very strategic location by Sri Krishna, as instructed by Arjuna. And he placed it in such a way so that Arjuna could see exactly who he was fighting. Placement was by Sri Krishna, but the view was given to Arjuna. And at that time, the Vishad came about. And his Vishad, or grief, did not come out of fear, the most powerful fighter of his time, but in appreciation of the fact that he may have to destroy the peoples in front of him. The very people that he would have loved to have the company of all his life. He would have to kill some of his own subjects or citizens, his own teachers, his cousins. And he felt that, how can I lead a life, even if I'm victorious, by killing my own people? From our point of view, the whole approach to our study can be described by one simile which comes over and over again in Vedanta. It's called Ratha Rupena Nirupanam. Body, chariot, analogy. It is described in Gita beautifully, as you will study it. Described in Katha Upanishad from Nachiketa, and relates to everyone's life sitting here in this room. What is that? Body, Deha, Sharira, is the chariot. So Sharira becomes the chariot. The senses or indriyas become the horses. The roads 35W and 94 and 394 are the desires or the roads that are traveled by those horses. Mind are the reins of those horses. Intellect is the driver, and who's sitting in the back of the chariot? He is the Swami, the Atman. Remember. So, if our intellect is loose, the driver goes this way, not sharp, not focused, one can end up anywhere, in wrong places, wrong direction, because the chariot will not take you to the destination that we need to go to. Besides, the sense objects will tempt us and we'll probably get sidetracked. Where in fact, if your intellect makes right choices through our free will, maintains proper control of the reins, mana, maintains the desires in the correct direction, and the senses work appropriately, the destination is guaranteed. So that's exactly Ratha Rupena Nirupana. So basically what we need is to use Viveka, called Sara Asara Buddhi, Sara Asara Buddhi, through the free will that has been bestowed on us by God's grace. And that you come here, you come up from Manushyatvam, Mumukshvatvam. Now is the time for us to follow Shri Krishna's teachings. I'm going to stop at this stage, that's what I have mentioned, and open up for questions, comments.